That's what she said.
Patty.
He got away from that. He ended up being his brother.
She's the one that said
When I don't know where you or Val or who called me that.
Everybody. He was mad. He did. It was the last he was on. I mean, I think he was one of the loose ones. He made him a little figure. That's when it had a little figurine.
You take a seat.
Yes.
Is that in order?
Yes.
No, man.
Awesome,
I hear
awesome,
you
awesome.
too have stories too.
Oh, he's.
I said to Mike, I said, wow, look at you. Whatever you do, don't sit by your mother.
I've been told I have 6 tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I said. Yes.
Sorry, that's.
Yes.
Well, good afternoon.
Her husband's not here.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna go.
Well, good afternoon, you were on hold. You want to do the announcement?
Yes, tell us.
You can tell she has all the treats in the family. What a treat.
I'll give you five. She was good for me.
Oh, here it is.
Like right now?
I didn't really have.
You mean like in the next hour? I mean, we're gonna be sitting here for an hour.
Thank you.
Somebody to get you something. Where's he at? Mike.
Exactly what I'm about ready to do. Hi, folks. Thank you very much for being here today. If you can reach in your pockets and pull out your cell phones, make sure they're on mute and turned off. Brian and I would really appreciate that. So, we're gonna have a little time to visit, even though you had plenty of time ahead of time, but we're not gonna blink the lights and honk the horns to get you out of here afterwards, so we have time to do that, or, which is probably more appropriate, is we probably ought to do a caravan to Elsa's. When I was working with the family, I suggested that we have this the service at Elsa's. Friday, pretty much the end of the day, I'm thinking that's pretty cool.
Yes.
Well, listen, again, thank you very much, all of you, for being here. And with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Bennett, our celebrant, who is going to conduct the service. Brian.
Well, as TR said, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I always love to come early so that I can see all the pictures that are here and kind of catch the energy of the room. And I will say, you guys are a little loud for a funeral, but from what I understand about hearing Stephanie's story, that fits perfectly well with who she was as a person and who her friends were. So thank you for being here today. As TR said, I'm what they call a funeral celebrant. I have a normal day job like most of you. I'm a leadership consultant by profession. But I do this with the Route Song team because a few years ago I lost my mom to cancer. And what you're doing today is so vitally important. It's just such a powerful part of the healing process to be able to come together and share stories and pubs, maybe from people that you don't get to see as much as you want to, and for all of you that will be going afterwards, continue to tell those stories. You know, over the last, I'd say 10 years or so, we've kind of moved away from calling what we're doing here today a funeral. And you're hearing more and more the phrase life celebration. And I like that shift, because as hard as today is, and let's be honest, it's a hard day. There's also a lot to celebrate. Stephanie touched a lot of people's lives, a lot of you touched her life. I'm a big believer, every life is a story that deserves to be told. You know, my privilege in coming along, and Stacy just did a fantastic job. We talked, I said, I just want to hear your mom's story. She did a beautiful job of telling me her story. And you guys are the pages and chapters of her story. I don't know, it would be so interesting to look down on this room and see all the decades of relationship and friendship and all that are represented here today. And I know from hearing from Stacy that these last few years have been really difficult, a health battle, but it sounds to me like she kept her strong spirit going as much as she could and was still as concerned about everybody else as you all were. A very wise person once said, it's okay to miss her. It's okay to continue to say her name every day you need to. It's okay to cry, it's okay to laugh, it's okay to breathe deeply. It's okay to smile when you think of her. It's going to be okay to have days when you can function, and it's going to be okay to have days when you just can't. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be thankful. It's okay to remember. It's okay to hope. And the biggest thing of all is it's okay to be honest about exactly how you're feeling. You know, what I've learned about grief in these last few years is it's kind of messy. If you've lost someone, you know that it affects everybody differently because you have different relationships and you go through a whole scope of emotion. The best thing that family and friends can do for each other at a time like this, just give each other the space to feel however it is you need to feel. Because there is no right or wrong way to grieve, there's just your way to grieve. And you just may need space. You may need to be around people. You may need to put this slideshow in front of you and watch it. Whatever you need to do, my encouragement is to do that. Now, I'm a big believer in something that I call holy collisions. What I mean by that is if you think over the course of our lives, there are certain times that we are lucky enough to run into the exact right person at the exact right time of our lives for the exact right reason that we were supposed to run into that person. You might be sitting next to one of your holy collisions right now. And you think back to that first moment you met. You know, who talked to the other one first? And what was it you saw in each other that caused it to end up a significant relationship it is today? And if you think about it, we can set aside all the accomplishments we've ever had, everything we've ever owned, and what life really boils down to are those significant, holy collision relationships. That's why you're here today, no doubt. You knew that your relationship with Stephanie was important enough. You needed to be here today. Well, whenever I have the privilege to do a service like this, I consider this group sitting in this room on this afternoon, we're our own version of the holy collision. Try to explain to me how this group of humans would ever be at the same place at the same time. If we had tried to plan this, it probably wouldn't work. And let's be honest, we parked our cars a few minutes ago. Many of us have things we're worried about. We have decisions we're trying to make. There might be something going on in your life today that nobody else in this room is even aware of. And all that stuff's going to be waiting for us when we go back and get in our cars. So my hope and my prayer is that by the time we go back to our own busy lives, we're going to take some of her spirituals. And that, to me, is the best way to celebrate someone's life. When you can learn from their life, be inspired by their life, when their life changes the perspective on our own lives. So, before I go any further, if you're comfortable joining me, I'd like to ask you if you would to join me in a word of prayer. Okay. God, I thank you for this exact group of friends and family who have come together today. God, I don't understand how you do it, but I personally believe that you can look down a room like this and you know what's going on in the lives of every person sitting in every chair in this room. And so I pray for the next few moments as we listen and learn from Stephanie's story and how she did her life, that we might hear something or remember something or feel something that we can put in our place in our own lives today. And by doing that, we'll keep her indelible spirit alive and well. So thank you for allowing us to call time out in our own busy lives. I pray a blessing on every person in this room. Thank you most of all for the exact way that you made Stephanie and for the difference and impacts her life has had. In your name we pray these things. Amen. You know, when I was talking to Stacy, I got to hear about a couple of her key holy collisions. I got to meet Tracy here a few moments ago. That was an important collision. I also got to meet, had the privilege of meeting Mike. I got to hear about their 23-year relationship. In fact, he wrote something that I want to share here. He said, I met Stephanie at Noblwood Tavern in Beaver Creek on January 15, 2001. And it was love at first sight for both of us. And we started dating. And I asked him a little earlier, I said, who made the first move? And he clearly said it was Stephanie. After a very short period of time, she moved in with me, and after going through trials and tribulations that people, and especially couples, go through in life, we decided to get married on December the 15th, 2001. That was exactly 11 months after we met. She used to say that we are compatible because opposites attract, and she was an optimist and I was a pessimist. Well, that might be true, but I would say that we are compatible because even though the two of us had chosen careers that are totally different, they both are a combination of science and art. After all these years, we never lost our love for each other. And I get to hear, if you've ever been in a position being a caregiver, my gosh, is that hard. And I got to hear from Stacy and Stephanie's sisters that he kept his marriage vows. You know, when you meet someone, when they met all those years ago, you never really know what you're signing up for. And to be able to stick together through sickness and in health, that's really what it's all about. Before I go any further, we wanted to be able to open the floor for a moment. There are a lot of you here from a lot of different relationships, and we wanted to open the floor a moment in case one of you might want to share, and you can do that right from where you're sitting if you want to. If you want to share a story or a memory, so we're going to do that now. If anybody wants to share.
I'll just say one thing. Text messages and calls saying, hey lady, how are you doing? She always said, hey lady, how are you doing? That's all I got.
That's perfect.
That's all I can do.
That's all somebody else can. Yes?
I'm John Boggs, and I think my connections with Stephanie and the girls goes back to, I think, 1966. Sorry, girls. Stephanie was part of the Brookhaven Brats. If you know, that's the name of this neighborhood over here. She was a Cherry Oak girl, because there was a group of them on that street. She was a Parkview Pansy, She was involved with the swim team. And just with the barrage of us, you read these stories about, remember the days we could stay out till dark and the streetlights came on? We didn't have streetlights, but we stayed out past dark. I lived right next door to Parkview, so I was at that end. They lived towards this end of Brookhaven. And we had the run of that whole area, whether it was bicycles, no headlights, we just zipping around. Or if we were running around, doing the tag game or whatever. We had friends and neighbors up and down those streets. And we could duck in whether we knocked or not on almost any of them. And that was our neighborhood. And that's my memory of the farmers.
That's awesome. And you could have done that without saying here.
Well, you're talking about decades. You can work your way up now.
And hasn't our world changed so much since those days? Anybody else? And and I hope for those of you who are going out afterwards, continue to tell stories, because that's where the healing comes from. You might have a picture of Stephani. My mom passed away, it's been 15 years ago. And a few months ago, somebody from my hometown back in Illinois got my phone number, I think, from my dad, and sent me a text, a picture of my mom that I'd never seen. And you might have that. You might have a story. You can get to the family through Facebook or whatever. And I'm telling you, that's where the healing comes from. If you lost somebody, the first year is the toughest. Because you have the first everything. We talk about the first Mother's Day happened right afterwards. And you'll have the first birthdays, the first anniversaries, the first everything. And you think you're doing really well, and 7 months later, 7 years later, something will happen to remind you of her, and you're right back to today. And those were those stories and moments really, really come in handy. Her sister Lisa wrote me some notes she wanted me to share. Her family called her Steph. They called her bold and beautiful. She had a big love for life. I guess she loved the ocean and the beaches and swimming. I got to hear the brief story. She was key in saving a man's life. He dove in the pool, hit his head on the bottom of the pool, and I guess Stacy was there to see that. Stephani dove in, and it helped this man out and was able to save him. Family was incredibly important to her, as were her clients, her co-workers, her friends. I'll be honest, I got on and trolled her Facebook page. And I got to see some of you, just the friendships. And you could tell in almost every picture, Stephani had a big old smile. And you could tell those relationships were very big. The thing that Lisa also said, she was just so grateful for my that they had. He would do everything or so. But the biggest of all, she said, was her daughter. She said Stacy was the best thing that she ever did. And with that, Stacy gave me a card that she had already bought for her Mother's Day. Didn't get to give it to her. But it has a message that I want to share with you. It says, "Mom, your love is my shelter. You've always given me your best, leading me in the right direction, showing your support, and loving me unconditionally. I know I didn't always see it, but believe me, I appreciate it now. I hope you know what a difference all your encouragement, sacrifice, and unwavering faith has made in my life. Thanks for believing in me and for being there through it all. I wouldn't be who I am without you. Happy Mother's Day." And then in her own writing, she said, "I love you so much." Stacy, I never believed she got to see that on the card. And, that's what relationships are really all about. Because sometimes as we get older, we appreciate our parents even more, and our sisters and our friends and all of that. As we sit here today, every one of us, we kind of represent two versions of ourselves. We are who we are as human beings. We're also who we are as a human doing. If you and I were to meet over coffee for the first time, we'd probably ask each other in the first minute, "What do you do?" Or "What did you do?" Because we attach a lot of our identity to whatever job we had or whatever career we had. And I understand that she was a beloved hairdresser for over 50 years. How many of you sat in her chair over the course of time? Or worked alongside her in that course of time? And I know from doing that myself, you're kind of in a counselor's chair for a little while, aren't you? And I thought about how you have to have the gift of conversation. And I asked Stacy when we talked, I said, was it more about the hair or was it more about the people? She undoubtedly said it was everything about the people. You know, the friendships, the different conversations you have, the level of personal stuff you're willing to share at that moment. I also understand that she loved her flowers, had a big love for her pets, loved to sit in her backyard and look at the flowers, loved being outside. But then we shifted our conversation to, I said, tell me who your mom is as a human being. I'm gonna pray for whoever that. Because we don't ask that question over coffee. We don't ask each other, who are you? What do you believe in? What are your values? And so I was able to ask Stacy, I said, tell me about your mom. She said she had a huge gift for socializing. Laughter and friendship. She created bonds and friendships, and she stuck with them, making those text messages and doing everything she could.
100%.
She also said her mom was more than a little bit feisty. Very social. Always tried to make the best of every situation. And here were some notes. Before I even got to meet and talk to Stacy, I had already read what she had written below the obituary on the website, and it was so beautiful I wanted to share it. She said, my dear, sweet, feisty mama. She was the biggest personality I've ever known, and I'm so lucky to be her daughter. She was my person, my rock, there for me no matter what. My life will forever be different now. My heart aches, but I know that she is no longer suffering and fighting for every breath. And she is with so many beloved family and friends up there now, which makes me smile for her along with the tears. I love you forever and always. Until I see you again and your beautiful smile, know that I love you more than anything. Friend first, Ellen says, Stacy, your mother was a light of the room when she walked in it, or she was already in it when another person arrived. Stephani was a kind and friendly lady to be around, always had a smile for anyone, no matter how she felt. I loved her, and she will truly be missed. And another note said, one of my favorite memories was taking a trip to Myrtle Beach with Stephani many years ago with two other friends. My, what time we had. So many laughs and counseling sessions when she'd add highlights to my hair or give me a trim. She was the type of friend that you knew you were going to have fun with, and no matter the time that it passed, we'd pick up right where we left off. Man, those are the best friends in the world. When you can pick up right where you were the last time you talked. You know, I asked Stacy, I said, if your mom's life taught you any life lessons, just by watching how she did it, watching how she approached the good times and the hard times and all the times in between. And she said she just had this optimistic way of looking at life. You know, with all the stuff that she faced, you know, she did it with strength, and she was always able to keep moving forward no matter what the circumstance was. You know, it is said in life, I believe this, we're born one time, but we die two times. The first time we die is a physical death, and unfortunately that has now happened with Stephani at a way too young of an age. But the second time we die, in my opinion, is much more tragic. Because the second time we die is the last time anybody ever says our name out loud. The last time anybody ever tells one of our stories or looks at our pictures. And my encouragement to this group that has come together so strongly today, don't ever let her die second death. You keep her memory and her spirit alive. You know, as I was thinking about her, you know, one of my childhood heroes, because I was also born in the 60s, a long time ago, was Mr. Rogers. I was a kid, and he was Mr. Rogers to me, and I would tune into that show, and Fred Rogers, though, as I learned as an adult, he was way more than an entertainer. He was a genius. One person called him a philosopher and a poet. Listen to this description and see who else you can think of. His whole life was a masterclass in presence, kindness, and what it means to truly see people. He was a safe place. What I didn't know was that after 9/11, after the events of 9/11, when our country was shaken and scared, the president asked one person to address the nation, Greg Lakers. And you can still see the video on YouTube if you go find it. That same calm man looked into the camera at a shaken nation, and this is what he said. We are called to be tikkun olam, which is a phrase from ancient Judaism that means repairers of people and repairers of creation. No matter what our particular job is, especially in our world today, we are called to be repairers, to bring joy and light and love to this broken world. And from the story that I got to hear, it sounds to me like that's what Stephani did. Stephani wasn't just a hairdresser. She was a repairer. She was a lifter. She was a builder. She was a listener. She was a safe place for her friends, and clients, and family. And what if every one of us left here today with that same commitment? Because let's be honest, we all have circles that are watching how we do life. We have people that are watching how we handle good times and hard times. And what if we left with her spirit? As we close today, I have to ask Stacy also about what she believed in. I am a believer that this life is only chapter 1 and there is a chapter 2. And every part of me believes the same thing that Stacy already said. She's in a place now where there is no cancer. There is no COVID. There is no war in the Middle East. There's no COPD. There's none of this stuff. And I believe with everything in me that a person like Stephani's not in heaven, the rest of us are going to keep in trouble. And if you share that belief, then today, as hard as today is, you don't have to say goodbye. You can simply say, and mean it. Mom, honey, sister, friend, we'll see you later. That phrase is carved on my mom's tombstone because it gives us hope. And so as I close today, I want to share what is one of the most powerful things that I've ever run across. It's part of a speech that Hannah Quinlan gave one afternoon to a group of college graduates at Villanova, and I hope that it matches the energy that your mom lived her life with. So this has been her honor. Hannah Quinlan said, you walk out of here today with the one thing that no one else has. There will be hundreds of people out there with your same degree. There will be thousands of people that do what you do for a living. But you will be the only person alive who has sole custody of your life. Your particular life, your entire life. Not just your life at the desk or on a bus or in a car or at the computer. Not just the life of your mind, but the life of your heart. Not just your bank account, but your soul. People these days don't talk about the soul very much anymore because it's much easier to write a resume than it is to craft a spirit. But a resume is a cold comfort on a winter night, or when you're sad or broke or lonely, or when you've gotten back the test results and they're not so good. So she said, here's my resume. I try to be a good mom. Try to never let my profession stand in the way of being a good mom. I no longer consider myself a center of the universe. I show up, I listen, and I try to laugh. I'm a good friend of my husband. I try to make my marriage vows mean what they say. I show up, I listen, and I try to laugh. I'm a good friend to my friends, and they are to me. Without them, there would be nothing to say today because I would simply be a cardboard cutout. So I call them on the phone when I can. I meet them for lunch. I show up, I listen, and I try to laugh. She said, I would be rotten or best mediocre at my work if those other things were not true, because you cannot really be first rate at your work if your work is all you are. So here's what I wanted to tell you today. I believe that if somehow Stephani could miraculously be standing where I'm standing, she might give us the same advice. Y'all get a life. Get a real life. Not just a man in pursuit of the next promotion or a bigger paycheck or a larger house. Do you think you care so very much about those things if you blew an aneurysm one afternoon or found a lump in your breast? Get a life in which you're not alone. Find people that you can love and people that will love you back. And remember that love is not leisure, it's really hard work. So pick up the phone, send an email, write a letter, kiss your mom, hug your dad. Get a life in which you are generous and realize that life is the best thing ever and we have no business taking it for granted. She said, I learned this many years ago because something really bad happened to me. something that if I had my choice would have never happened at all. But it has taught me the biggest lesson of my life. I've learned to love the journey and not the destination. And I learned that today is not a dress rehearsal. Today is the only guarantee that any of us really get. So I try to do that by giving everybody this advice. Consider the lilies of the field. Take a moment to look at the fuzz on the back of a baby's ear. Read a book in the backyard with the sun shining in your face and learn to be happy. Because if you think of life as a terminal illness, you will live it with joy and passion as it ought to be lived. It sounds to me that you all had the blessing to live life with the joy and passion of somebody who did it right. And that's the biggest blessing of all. So thank you for allowing TR and I to be part of your holy collision today. It's been an honor to be here with you. I'd like to close with a word of prayer, and then we'll turn it back over to Mr. Mason. God, I thank you for the emotions in this room, for the friendships that are represented, for the literal decades of life that's been lived together. And I thank you that you made Stephani exactly how you made her, with her personality, with her smile, with her compassion, with her love. And I pray as we leave this place that we'll all think more deeply about our relationships, about the people in our life that we can extend that same energy to. So I pray for a blessing, give safety, pray for the group that's going to be going together afterwards for more stories, more fun, and more time together to be able to continue the storytelling. It's in your name we pray these things. Amen.
He's pretty good at this, isn't he? Again, thank you all for coming. Are you?
Yeah.
Are you? Strupen, Marshall, Elsa. So go over there and have a few bad ones. And,
Yes, sir.
You notice she's got one over here. So,
Yeah. It's a pull tab, so somebody needs to pull her face. That might be $5.99 waiting over there.
Hey, listen, thanks for letting us know your family and everything. Thank you. Would you please all drive safely and when you leave here, and more importantly, drive safely as you leave Elsa. Probably more important. Thank you very much for coming. We did have a few guests who'd like to come forward and showed up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Tom.
I do. I don't think we ever got to this was the crazy one. This was the young one that came along with everything with ISIS. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. She retired, but she's working more now, taking care of her dad and mom in Columbus. So we drive to Columbus several times a week. That's where she is right now. She's independent living, but she's out of the opportunity. But yeah, I think you're like But I would not have you Yeah, we did it for our fathers. They were the when they first started making it, way back. When they started that whole craze that's going on now. See where you started? But, yeah, her dad, my dad, two other dads were always on a relay team on the holiday swim meets together, and their name was the Stewart Clan. And they would make, their own t-shirt up and mail markers with drawings of this clan swimming. And then, of course, they all had crazy names. One guy was very tall, he was crazy legs, this, that, the other. And my dad was pretty big, and the sports gentleman, he was really good. And now they always swam crazy. It was hilarious. Oh yeah, they were the life of the party. He's been gone now. He died, he was 66. He was actually on a floating business cruise down the coast. And he died on the boat. That night, basically. They worked on him, got him to shore, they worked on him. They never got to retire, so I had made the promise. Yeah. So that's why the year after I was yelling.
So next time, oh, I meant.
So I could do retirement.